Okay, hopefully the audio on this one's a little bit better. I did get a battery for my microphone, so that is back intact. So we'll see how this goes. So my last video, I talked about how I got into bodybuilding. So this one I just wanted to give a brief run through of my bodybuilding career. Some of these videos may not be anything you're interested, but I have this whole kind of, I guess, concept of how I want to roll through, I guess, what I've been doing for the past 17 years with fitness and all of it. And yeah, so this is the next one. So as I mentioned in the last video, my very first competition was Greek Physique. That's what they called the annual bodybuilding competition that my school held. I did that in 2006. So 2005 was my freshman year, where I watched my one of my fraternity brothers, members, whatever, guy in my fraternity win the overall at Greek Physique. And that's also when he told me that if I went ahead and started training for that competition, that I could win it the next year. So about 11 months of training later, including the diet, everything, posing, blah, 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 I did Greek Physique in 2006, and I actually won my class as well as overall in 2006. And it was a lot more fun than I expected. Of course, winning is going to make it a lot more fun, and because it was on campus and a fraternity thing, and I was in a fraternity, there were a whole bunch of guys in my fraternity who were there as well. They were all like in the same group, so they managed to buy their tickets like in a section. So I think I had like 60 or 70 guys all in this one section, all screaming, being obnoxious, and it made it a blast, right? But I did enjoy the whole process. I loved the training. I enjoyed the dieting, getting leaner, watching your body kind of change and all of that. So I decided I wanted to keep competing. And NIU, or Northern Illinois, is in DeKalb, Illinois. There's a town called Ottawa, Illinois, which is maybe half an hour from DeKalb. And so some guys in my school were telling me that there was a show in Ottawa, I should go do that. I didn't want to just jump into it right away because I wanted to feel more confident that I was going to be better for the next one, and I wanted to have like noticeable improvements, not just try and get a little bit leaner over the next couple weeks. So I trained for a year and came out and did the Ottawa show in 2007. Now my very first show, I was about 197 pounds, dieted down to I think 181. My next show I was about 207, dieted down to about 190. So about 9 pounds up, and I honestly believe just as lean for the second show as the first one. Now granted, this is my first couple years of training. Maybe I wasn't quite as lean, but I was close enough at least, and I had enough more muscle that I certainly still looked relatively good going into the next show. Now neither of these shows was I nearly lean enough by, I guess, recognizing what bodybuilding could or should be. But for a college kid, I looked pretty good. I got 4th place out of 19 guys in light heavyweight class in my second show. Decided to go back and do it the next year. Except the next year, I also decided I was going to try the dirty bulk for the first time. So instead of gaining, maybe 5 pounds up from my heaviest over the course of the following year, like I had previously, or well, I guess I was 10 pounds up. Either way, I did even more. I got up to 224 pounds. So I was 17 pounds up before I started dieting, for my previous heaviest weight before I started dieting for the next show. It was way too much body fat that I had gained at this point. I was also not making the same kind of progress in the gym that I was for those first couple of years. It was certainly slowing down a little bit at this point. And then dieting was a bummer. It was not fun. I was doing way more cardio. I was doing much more restrictive diets. I was doing everything I could to try and get lean enough. I still felt like I wasn't lean enough. I got down to 191 pounds, so I was just as light as I was the year before, within like a pound of where my weight was the year before. Even though I was 17 pounds heavier, it was a miserable process getting down there, and I actually felt like I looked worse. I was less confident in how I looked going into it. And I was pretty upset about, really with myself, about letting myself get gain so much extra body fat when I knew that I was going to have to be losing it later. So for me, that was where I decided, all right, I'm never going to like dirty bulk again. But also that's where I decided from now on, if I ever need to lose more than about 10 to 12 pounds for a competition, I'm going to do it in a minimum of 16 to 20 weeks, because I feel much more comfortable just slowly taking the time to diet down than I do trying to do this aggressive weight cut. Other people do the aggressive weight cuts. I don't like it. I feel like I get weaker. I feel like I get smaller. I feel like I don't, get as tight, as sharp looking as when I do it slower. And I don't mind being disciplined. I also rarely have let myself get heavy enough where I have to do the big weight cuts for a lot of reasons. One, I don't like the way I look when I get too heavy. Two, having ulcerative colitis, sometimes it's just kind of hard to eat the extra food too. It can cause me a little bit of GI distress. And one of the things, if I ever am feeling any GI distress, that I usually do is I just don't eat. I'll go ahead and skip a meal or two, go to bed early, drink lots of water, and just give my digestion a little bit of a break. So it's just easier for me to maintain kind of a normal healthy body weight as opposed to be trying to like push food all the time. So anywho, I didn't compete after that until I did guest posing at Greek Physique the following year, and then I did in 2009 Collegiate Nationals. I didn't look great for Collegiate Nationals. I looked phenomenal for the guest posing at Greek Physique. I actually feel like that was one of my, for me, like kind of one of my big moments, I guess, in my bodybuilding career where I hit a different level of conditioning than I ever had, that I ever thought I was capable of. And it was an aha moment for me, realizing there's a lot of things people, use, I guess, well, really just make excuses for. And one of them is conditioning. The biggest one I feel like in bodybuilding is the conditioning. And a lot of times people like to talk about, well, not just bodybuilding, but fitness in general, right? Like getting so lean. Oh, you can't do that without drugs. People like to say that drugs are the only way. And I heard people saying that, and I just went ahead and believed it myself. And I thought, well, I don't know people. Granted, I was young, but I was like, I don't know people who are getting this level of insanely lean without drugs, so it must be something that you need drugs for. Now, of course, that's silly because the drugs are to build muscle. There are things that help with losing body fat, but we can all restrict calories and burn more calories, eat less, move more. We're all capable of that. So you don't need drugs to lose body fat. But I just allowed myself to believe it. And then for whatever reason, for this competition, or for this guest posing rather, I just didn't think at all about it. I ate super healthy. I trained my butt off. I trained twice a day. I lifted twice a day. This was my first time ever doing this. I was reading the Arnold biography, not the encyclopedia, but his biography. And he was talking about how he trained twice a day during it. So I decided I wanted to try that. And I got so much leaner than I ever had before. And I also got a lot stronger and felt great. And I was like, wow, this is, I see all this muscle definition I didn't know I could see. Maybe I need to rethink what I am and am not capable of. So anyway, I did Collegiate Nationals. I actually decided to try to do like a junk load to fill out for that. Because I did that for the guest posing and it worked out great. It did not work out great for Collegiate Nationals. I blew up like 10 pounds from weigh-ins to the competition, and I just looked kind of puffy on stage. It didn't work out well for me, so that was a mistake. I don't do any of that anymore either. But back to the competing. So I did a show in fall of 2009. Got second in the light heavyweight class in the novice division. That was just a few coworkers were doing it. I decided to jump in it with them. I think he dieted for like 3 weeks for that, but at this point I was starting to get into the fitness modeling a little bit. So I was doing photo shoots and things with I think I had a photo shoot with Muscle and Fitness like a couple weeks before the show anyway. So I was maintaining a much leaner physique at this point now in my life. I did a show, I didn't compete at all in 2010. 2011, one of my friends, Casey, wanted to do the Ottawa, Illinois show, and the one that I did for my first and second show, got fourth place at both of those. And I said after my first time I was going to come back and win the overall. Well, I didn't do it the next year, but 4 years later, come back, win the overall. My first overall, pretty cool moment for me. Was talked into doing a show that was a week or two later in Iowa. That was a national qualifier, because the Ottawa show was not. Because I was just told to be cool to be nationally qualified, so I was like, okay, whatever. So I did that, won the light heavyweight class. And then I kind of got egged on by some of the people I was working with that I should go ahead and do junior nationals as well. Got pneumonia while I was training for that. Don't think it mattered. I was going to be too small. Ended up getting last call out, which was a horrible feeling. I remember they do like number call outs, so they're calling out everybody's number that you wear, through the various call outs. For us, for that last call out, there were 4 of us left, and they didn't say any numbers. It just said, and the rest of you. And I remember it just felt so dismissive, and I get it's a long show, they're trying to be quick, this isn't anything against anybody, but just how it resonated with me, it was just such a kick in the junk. It sucked. I had never felt that before, actually. At this point, I had been in the first call out in any show I had done. They were all much smaller, much less competitive shows, but I just hadn't felt what that felt like yet. But I think it was a good experience for me, and also like a humbling experience, kind of reminder of where I was at, and if I wanted to continue to try and push with bodybuilding, how much growing I needed to do, literally and metaphorically. So, recovered from pneumonia, antibiotics, the whole shebang, and decided to try out men's physique because it's new for the division this year. Do a local show to qualify for nationals, go do North Americans. North Americans, I got 6th place out of 33 guys. Good enough, kind of in the mix enough that I decided I wanted to try one more national show that year. So I went down to Miami to do nationals. 75 guys in Class C. I was 4th call out, was not in the mix this time. Decided to, because it was such a big class, to go ahead and give myself a little bit of slack and be like, maybe you just got kind of lost in the crowd a little bit. It happens occasionally, so try one more show. So I did one more local show in Illinois the following spring in 2012, and I got 2nd place. And for me, it was like, if I'm not winning overalls at local shows for this division, I'm not going to do this division, because I don't love this division. I love bodybuilding. So go back to training, and then a year later do another bodybuilding show. So same show that I did men's physique at, the Chicago show in the spring, but I come back a year later, do bodybuilding, get 3rd place in the men's open bodybuilding, and then a few weeks later, I go do a show in San Jose. I win the light heavyweight class there, decide to go do Team Universe. Team Universe, I go in, wasn't sure how I did, to be honest. I felt like I did all right, but it was kind of that, I'm in the mix, maybe I'm top 3. I'm getting all these phone calls, text messages, people talking about how I'm on Muscular Development Online, on like the front page apparently, and talking about how I'm the apparent front runner for the whole competition. I did not win the show, but I did win my class. I did not win the overall. Guy who won the overall looked great. He was been bodybuilding for like a decade more than me. He looked awesome. He beat me, is what it is. But awesome experience, huge moment for me. And it was definitely something that had me feel like I can do something with this. And I'd always wanted to make it to IFBB, but it was one of those things that for a long time I had just submitted to the idea of, the only way I'm ever going to get there is if I take drugs, and I'm not going to do that. I want to compete naturally, so I just do this for fun. And it's what it is. And in that moment, it was like, maybe I can get there naturally. Now, of course, I understood in men's open bodybuilding, I wasn't going to do anything as a natural athlete, but that still felt like an accomplishment for me. And, I knew realistically I probably wasn't going to do anything with even a small amount of steroids, because I'm like 5'10.5", 5'11", somewhere around there. So somebody my height would probably have to be about 265 pounds on stage at a minimum. So for me to put on basically 65 pounds of lean body mass, I recognized 65 to 70, was something that was probably going to take more than like a low dose of testosterone. And having some health issues, I've always really prioritized my health, and I didn't want to mess with it. So I just submitted to that. I'm not going to. But then that, the universe competition, doing drug testing for the men's open division gave me that glimmer of hope, and then also doing well in it gave me that glimmer of hope. So I go compete at IFBB Worlds in Marrakesh, Morocco. I was in I don't remember my exact placing, I believe it was 11th. But they call back just the top 15. So instead of doing call-outs, they see the whole class, and then they just bring out the top 15 after that. So I was in the top 15, I got to be compared with, all the top guys. That was a cool moment for me. I was one of 2 Americans that year. The other guy, of course, was the guy who beat me at Universe for the overall. But we were the only 2 who were called back to be in the mix for the top 15. Cool moment. He actually ended up getting 6th place, I believe. Although, to be fair to me, there were a lot more guys in the light heavyweight class than the heavyweight class. Not saying that I look better than him. He beat me, but I just felt like I thought it was a little closer than that kind of disparity, but we weren't in the same class. Part of me wishes I would have competed as a heavyweight just so I could have seen how close I would have been to him. Just for my own reference. I always wonder these kind of things. Kind of like a guy I went to college with that I was always cool with named Sam, competes in natural bodybuilding federations, and I've always wondered how I compete against him because he looks unbelievable, and I'll probably make a future video talking a little bit about some of the comparisons of my progress over the year and showing some photos, and I'll probably show him too as a guy that I look at as a phenomenal natural bodybuilder who's made phenomenal progress to show hopefully some of his transformations as well. Just to compare and contrast, like here's what I've done, here's what he's done, really just for my own entertainment. But he's another guy that I always wish I would have had an opportunity to compete against because I'd just like to know, how close I would be to him. Anyway, I digress. So, after Worlds, I had some issues with my colitis, and it was up and down over the next few years. I kept doing shows. Some of them I was kind of forcing to happen and bouncing back from, rebounding from colitis flares. Some of them, I was doing more, in a healthier state. But for the most part, over the next few years, a lot of it was, rebounding from colitis flares, and I wasn't in a great place, mentally or physically, and I was just trying to force this to happen because I felt like I needed to keep bodybuilding to feel like I was somewhat in control of my health, which I was having a hard time getting everything in check at that point. But I did get it all in check for the most part, and the advent of Classic Physique, I tried that out. 2016, I got 7th place at Junior Nationals, 2016, 7th place at Junior Nationals, and I think 11th at USA's in Vegas. Then I opened up my store, Grit Nutrition. Didn't compete until 2017. Won an overall at a local show in Chicago in 2017 in the fall. And then 2018, I had a mild colitis flare-up, but I bounced back pretty well from that. It was a couple weeks, not anything too horrible. Training was going great. Go do Junior Nationals again in 2018. I got 3rd place in 2018 in Class C for Classic Physique. Told myself I was going to come back and win my class the next year. Instead, I had a pretty bad flare-up that year that lasted a few months. So I did not compete in 2019. Well, for Junior Nationals, I did end up doing a local show in bodybuilding in 2019. I competed as a heavyweight, like a 201-pound heavyweight. Got 3rd place in that. The guy who actually won my class went and got 5th place at Nationals a couple weeks later for the heavyweight division. So it was a good class, smaller but relatively competitive. Then 2020 was what it was. So no shows then. And then last year, 2021, I did a show up in Wisconsin where I got 2nd place in my class. I actually had probably the worst colitis flare-up of my life going into that. And I just came in off. It is what it is. That flare-up lasted for probably about 3 more months after that show. Finally got everything in check. Training was going great. Decided to jump into, again, the fall show in Chicago. I've done a million times because one of my buddies was doing it. So sucked down to light heavyweight so we could compete against each other because I wanted to see if I could try and beat him. He competes enhanced, so he's maybe 5'8". I'm a good 3 inches taller than him. And he's enhanced and we're competing at the same weight, so I knew it was probably not terribly likely. He also comes in shredded. But I wanted to try, and I thought it'd be fun, and he's a buddy of mine, and I thought it'd be, good for both of us to kind of egg each other on a little bit. I got 3rd place there. He won the light heavyweight class and the overall. We both then go and do Nationals. I did Nationals and Classic, of course. Legitimately feel like it was the leanest I've ever been for a competition. I was I think my low weight getting ready for the show was 197.8. I weighed in at 199 something. I think I stepped on stage around 200 pounds. So I didn't do anything crazy. I usually don't. I did feel like I was a little bit off. I also didn't plan my food right. Not making excuses. I wasn't like close to being in the top five. I was 10th place out of 39 guys. So you know, it was a tough pill for me to swallow because even though I didn't come in like 100% of where I felt like I was, I still felt like I was the best I had ever been, and to not not even be close to the top five, be in 10th place was it was a hard pill to swallow for me because it was something that also had me feel a little bit like now even classic physique is outgrowing me and kind of what I can achieve naturally. So that was a bummer. That was my last show. But anyway, I've done a ton of competitions. I'm sure I know for sure, rather, that I missed a few in there. But I do love bodybuilding. I love the sport. I love competing. I think classic is probably my favorite because it reminds me the most of kind of what I originally fell in love with bodybuilding for, which was focusing on definition, symmetry, and presentation. And I've been neglecting the presentation because I've been doing bodybuilding for so long, but I'm enjoying starting to finally put some more time into trying to get that down again and present myself better and just kind of the presentation is like the skill of the sport of bodybuilding. So it's like wanting to be a quarterback and not knowing how to throw a football and thinking because you're agile and strong or whatever it is that you're going to be a good quarterback, but you aren't accurate, or because you can throw the ball far even though you're not accurate that you'll be good. You need that skill set. Presentation is the skill set, and there's, I feel like, a little bit more of an emphasis on that in the classic physique, or at least this is my opinion of it, and I am enjoying it a lot. So anyway, there is the long-winded but as concise as I'm capable of, I guess, run through of my bodybuilding career thus far. I say thus far because even though we're 16, 17 years deep, I still plan on going for a bit longer here because I love it. So yeah, that's it. Next video, I'm going to be talking about my health.